So Ulakut, good morning. Welcome everyone to this beautiful facility and to the LCAC conference. So we're going to be spending a few days together, and so I'm going to take a moment to introduce you, the elder, Claudette. Sorry, is somebody talking to me? No? Okay. I'm looking for cues because I'm hearing things up here. So, so Elder Claudette Kamanda is part of this region, Algonquin territory, and she is from the Kitigan, Zibi, Anishinaabe First Nations located in the province of Quebec. She is also a professor of the University of Ottawa and the executive director of the First Nations Confederacy of Cultural Education Centers, which is a nationwide organization that is aimed at protecting, promoting First Nations culture, languages, and traditional knowledge. So please welcome Claudette Kamanda to give our opening prayer.
Thank you, James. Good morning. Bonjour tout le monde. Kwe sheba. Kwe sheba. Minukishigun. Right? Right. Kwe. Hey. I have to tell you this story to wake everyone up. But actually, I have to tell you this first of all before I say the story. I'm not an elder. I am an old lady. That I can tell you. And I have the right to say I'm an old lady because I do have 10 grandchildren. And that is my greatest accomplishment, is being a kokum, a grandmother. And I find that whenever I go into an audience and when they say the elder is here to give the prayer, suddenly there's total silence in the room, that there's actually more life in a mausoleum than in a room. So please do not just be yourselves, okay? Just be yourselves. Okay, I have to break the ice here, and I have to share this story with you. A few years ago, and I know some of you have heard this story, but I always get a chuckle out of this story because it pleases my heart. A few years ago, my daughter-in-law texted me, and she texted this word, and she said, Kwe Sheba. So I texted her back, and I said, well, good morning, Cleopatra. So she said to me, why are you calling me Cleopatra? Well, I said, why are you calling me the Queen of Sheba? She said, no, this is how we in Kitigan Zibi, or Boyer Lake, how we say good morning, Kwe Sheba. I said, well, you spelt it like the Queen of Sheba. I couldn't help but calling you Cleopatra. So to you, toutes mes amis, all my friends, Kwe Kakina, Kwe Sheba, good morning to everyone. Good morning. Let us all say good morning to one another, because indeed it is a good morning. I look into the audience and I see familiar faces. Cleo, Craig, Wesley, Patty, Jennifer, and many others. And I look in the audience and I see new people that I haven't met yet, but I know that now we are friends. So I say to the organizers, miigwech for honoring and respecting the protocols of the Algonquin people. And I've been asked to be here with you today to bless your gathering. I've been asked to give the protocols by the welcoming to each and every one of you. Pijajikoma, Nichkiwe Dog Ashishanishnabeg, Pijajikoma, O Mamamwenini, Anishnabe Aki. Bienvenue tout le monde ici, à la terre ancestrale de mes peuples algonquins. Je suis très fier pour donner des mots de bienvenue et aussi pour donner des mots de bénédiction. I'm very proud to be here with each and every one of you to give these words of welcome, to welcome each and every one of you, brothers and sisters, to this beautiful, unsurrendered, unceded territory of the Algonquin people, the land that has been here since time immemorial, gifted to us by the Creator, Gishimanato, to ensure that this land will be here forevermore for our children who are here today and those 7 generations that will come. And we all know that in our traditions, in our belief systems, in our creation story, that the greatest gift that the Creator has given us is life and our children and our land. And we must ensure that the land will always be here for those children, because indeed we borrow the land from our children. And we do know that the 7 generations that are not here yet, they are standing behind us. They are standing in front of us, and indeed they will come. In the same way that 7 generations ago, our ancestors stood before, and they remembered us, and they honored us, because they knew we were coming. And here we are today. Here we are today to do fundamental work that relates to land, that relates to the rights to land and the rights that are attached to the land. Fundamental work as we move forward in reconciliation. And what does reconciliation mean? What does it mean for us and to us? My belief of reconciliation is about the truth, the Bwewin. My understanding of reconciliation is about life. It is about love. It is about respect. And together we, the people, regardless of color or creed, regardless of title, we must make reconciliation happen in a successful way for the children. Always put our children first and foremost. Reconciliation will be successful because it will be about the children, and our children are our future. Canadians, First Nations, Indigenous peoples, absolutely. Reconciliation will be successful if it is for the children. And we must look to our children as our guiders, because indeed those children are the true elders, because they've come here with that gift, knowing who they are, that special gift of the Creator. So to you, my friends, I ask at this time that we stand to honor the ancestors of this land, the ancestors, the Anishinaabe, the Algonquin ancestors, the ancestors that have been here since time immemorial, the ancestors that have walked this land and lived this land, and the ancestors that are buried here. And I ask that we honor all our ancestors. For each and every one of you that are standing here, you all have ancestors, and we must acknowledge those ancestors. Never forget them, for indeed they are with us. We must always ask the ancestors for their help, their guidance, their wisdom, because we borrow that wisdom. And we know that the one that grants us this wisdom and knowledge and power, he loans us his strength, and that is from Creator, Gishimanato. And I ask that you humble yourself before the ancestors and to give your words of thanks, to give your words of prayer, Imiawin, in the way that you are comfortable in praying to the Great One, the one and only, the Master of life, and that one great Spirit, whom we call Gishimanato. And I say to Creator, Miigwech Gishimanato, Miigwech Onje Nongo, Das Pinigen Nijen Wendaganag, Das Pinigen. Das Pinigen Kokomisag, Das Pinigen Mishomsag. Miigwech Gishimanato Onje Jojo Aki, Kokomistipagizis Mishomis Gizis. Miigwech. Miigwech Onje Gishimanato. Nibok Sendam Kebaj Kijigun Onje Kakina. Nibok Sendam Gishimanato Onje Kakina. Minopomadzuin Ashish Mashkawazuin Ashish Kizagiewin. Creator, we give you great thanks for the beauty of this day. And we ask that our ancestors, that they come into this room. We ask our grandmothers and our grandfathers of the 4 directions to be here with us, to guide us, to watch over us, and to protect us. We give you thanks, Creator, for the bountiful life that you give each and every one of us. We thank our Mother, the Earth. We thank our grandfather, the Sun, and we thank our grandmother, the Moon. We give you thanks for the water life, the plant life, the animal life, and human life, and all of life. Creator, it is my prayer for the people that are gathered here today and their families, to bless them with many more tomorrows. Creator, it is my prayer, Nine miawin onji kakina, to bless them, Moshkawiziwin with strength. It is my prayer, Creator, for the people, to bless them with that greatest gift that you've given each and every one of us, that gift that it is so free, and that gift that we must continue to share with one another, and that is love. For indeed, Creator, you loved us. You loved us so much that you gave us life, and you bless us each and every day. And Creator, it is my prayer for the people that we walk in a good way in this meeting that we gather here, that you loan us your wisdom, your knowledge, and your strength, and that together, with that one mind, that one heart, and that one spirit, we will bless one another with kindness, with love, and respect. And Creator, it is my prayer for the people that we come together and we remember the children. And let us remember those that are out there on the streets that do need compassion. Let us remember our relatives who have their own prayers of healing. Let us remember their prayers. Let us remember our brothers and sisters who truly need us to help them walk this life. Let us remember, Creator, the people out there in the world, and we pray for world peace. And Creator, most importantly, equally important, let us remember the greatest mother of all, and that is Mother Earth, and that we respect her, and we respect the land and the water, and let us say thank you to our Mother the Earth for her kindness. And Creator, I give you thanks, and I say to you, Chi miigwech kishimana do onje nongo. Miigwech onje kizagi ewin. Thank you, Creator, for your love. And to each and every one of you, the people and brothers and sisters that are in this room, let us together say that one word that we all can say together. And I ask that we honor the relatives of the Four Directions by giving them thanks for being here, for blessing your meeting, and blessing the work that you do every day for your people, for your communities, and for this country. And together let us say miigwech 4 times. Miigwech, 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 miigwech. Thank you. Merci beaucoup, toutes mes amis. Have a great, wonderful meeting, and I know indeed you will, because I do feel the goodness in this room. I feel the good spirits, and I feel your kindness. Take good care and enjoy your meetings and share your knowledge and help one another. Thank you. Take care. Miigwech.
Kuinami Claudette. We've been warmly welcomed, so please feel like you're at home. So kuinamik. So this morning we're going to have 2 of our co-chairs make their opening statements. So Eva Clayton, I'll be asking you to come up. Eva Clayton is the co-chair of the LCAC, and this is her 7th, she is the 7th elected president of the Nisga'a Nation. She was elected in November of 2016. Eva's public service to the Nisga'a Nation spans decades in various positions, including administrative and political capacities. And her employment began with the Nisga'a Tribal Council in the 1980s. While working there, Eva had the privilege of working closely with many leaders of the day, including the late Dr. Frank Calder, James Gosnell, and Rod Robinson, so to name a few, while they were actively negotiating their treaty, and which would become the final Nisga'a final agreement. President Clayton has held various political positions, as mentioned, and namely in their village, and also in the several roles as chief counselor of her community and has served as the chair of programs and services in her village. And her village governs the community and the area. And Eva is Kisim Ganada from Wilps Kisim Sisan, if I hope I just said that okay. So let's welcome Eva Clayton, and she is the proud grandmother to 5 grandchildren. So welcome, Eva, to the podium to give your opening statement.
Good morning. Thank you for the kind introduction. Chiefs, matriarchs, honored guests, distinguished guests, it is indeed my honor to stand before you to welcome you to the Land Claims Agreements Coalition Conference. Before I begin, I want to acknowledge the Algonquin Nation for allowing me to speak on their unceded territory. Thank you. On behalf of the Nisga'a Nation, I'm very happy to be here today to welcome you, along with our co-chair, Iluki Kutik, from Nunavut Tungavut Incorporated, otherwise known as NTI. Almost exactly 14 years ago, on November 11th to 13th, 2003, the leaders of all the Indigenous groups of Canada, who had at that time entered into what were then referred as comprehensive land claims agreements, met together in Ottawa. Today we call these agreements modern treaties. The conference was entitled, the theme of the conference then was redefining relationships, learning from a decade of land claims implementation. And it was the first time that all of these nations, the groups and organizations, had met together to share common concerns. At the end of the conference, participants issued a joint statement calling on the Government of Canada to develop new land claims implementation policy in close consultation with Indigenous governments and organizations who had achieved modern treaties. We formed the Land Claims Agreements Coalition to work together towards our shared objectives of having our hard-won treaties properly implemented. All members agreed that we had no intention to create a new national organization similar to the AFN or ITK. Rather, we simply agreed to work together on the major issues that we all have in common, bringing about changes at a national level that are necessary for making our modern treaties work at home. Ever since then, our coalition of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people from all regions of Canada has brought together a powerful voice based upon the experience and sophistication of the peoples for whom modern treaties are a concrete reality with which we live every day, not a mere dream for the future. And as modern treaties have been entered into since then, our ranks have increased as each new modern treaty holder has joined the coalition. LCAC members agreed back in 2003 that there should be a federal modern treaty implementation policy. And they agreed that the policy must be based upon 4 key elements, which remain the fundamental goals of the LCAC today. Those elements, with some of the language slightly updated, are, number 1, recognition that the Crown in right of Canada, not the Department of Indian Affairs and Northern Development, by that or any other name, is party to our modern treaties and associated self-government agreements. There must be, number two, there must be a federal commitment to achieve the broad objectives of these agreements within the context of the new relationships, as opposed to mere technical compliance with narrowly defined obligations. This must include, but not be limited to, ensuring adequate funding to achieve these objectives and fulfill the obligations. Number three, implementation must be handled by appropriate senior level federal officials representing the entire Canadian government. Number four, there must be an independent implementation audit and review body separate from the Department of Indian Affairs and Northern Development. This could be the Office of the Auditor General or a similar office reporting directly to Parliament. Annual reports must be prepared by this office in consultation with modern treaty groups. We actually made rapid progress with the federal government between 2003 and 2005, bolstered by a report from then Auditor General, which emphasized the need for implementation to be focused on whether modern treaties are achieving their objectives. Indeed, a memorandum of understanding between ourselves and the federal government had nearly been completed when our efforts were interrupted by the new government in January of 2006, and progress was brought to a standstill. However, the LCAC continued to deliver our message to parliamentary committees, cabinet ministers, individual MPs and senators, federal officials, and at our annual conferences such as this one. An especially important result of our collective efforts was the special study on the implementation of comprehensive land claims agreements in Canada, conducted by the Senate Standing Committee on Aboriginal Affairs in 2008, and its important report entitled Honoring the Spirit of Modern Treaties, Closing the Loopholes, which endorsed and recommended most, if not all, of the LCAC's proposals. That report is still very significant and is available to all of you. The most significant development was the adoption by the previous government in July of 2015 of a statement of principles and cabinet directives on the federal approach to modern treaty implementation. These important documents, especially the Statement of Principles, were developed collaboratively, and while the Cabinet Directive did not fulfill all of the Coalition's objectives for a new policy, these measures did not include several significant steps that, if properly acted upon, move in the right direction of addressing our 4 points. They recognize that the treaties are with the Crown, not just with the department or departments responsible for Indigenous relationships. The Cabinet directives establishment of a Deputy Minister's Oversight Committee to oversee implementation on a whole of government basis partially addresses the need for senior officials to be responsible for implementation, and it is our view that its Secretariat, the Modern Treaty Implementation Office, should be located within a Privy Council office rather than remain under the implementation branch of the department. It is possible that the performance measurement framework mandated by the Cabinet Directive will include the measurement of results against objectives. That remains a work in progress. There's now an assessment of modern treaty implementations, the AMTI process, that was adopted by the Deputy Minister's Oversight Committee in October 2016, according to which all legislative and policy initiatives are supposed to be assessed for their implications on modern treaties before they proceed to Cabinet. Unfortunately, it remains unclear how effective this process will be. Coalition members are still waiting for specific engagement in respect of legislative initiatives, such as the revisions to the Fisheries Act, the Canadian Environmental Assessments Act, and the proposed Indigenous languages legislation, despite our requests for the MTI discussions. As we will be discussing together this week, much still remains to be done. First, the LCAC continues to believe that there is still a need for the government to adopt a public policy to set out its commitment to and the means by which modern treaties will realize their full potential and benefits to all Canadians. The Cabinet Directive, by its nature, is directed at federal departments and agencies. While important, it nonetheless falls short of what a comprehensive policy could achieve in its permanent vision. A national policy would include, but be much more than a set of internal directives. Another one of our 4 points that remains to be addressed is the need for an independent review body. In our view, Parliament, our members, and all Canadians should be able to receive reports on the implementation of modern treaties from an impartial and independent body, which we should have proposed should be within the Office of the Auditor General. Last week, the Coalition made a specific and detailed proposal for the establishment of this body. That proposal is available to all of you and will be discussed and assessed later on in this conference. We are pleased that our efforts have led to ongoing work with the Government of Canada at both the officials level and with senior political leaders. We continue to work on implementing the Cabinet Directive, and many of our members are involved with the collaborative fiscal policy work. Both as a coalition and individually, our members have met with the House of Commons Committee and with the Law and Policy Working Group ministers chaired by Minister of Justice Jody Wilson-Raybould. Our Inuit members met with the Prime Minister earlier this year, and our First Nations members met with him 2 weeks ago. And these were very positive meetings, and we hope that they will lead to greater progress in the months to come. All of these efforts and ideas will be discussed at the sessions during this conference. We look forward to sharing of ideas and participation of everyone here at this week to help us continue to work together to make our modern treaties work in the way that they are supposed to be working, to make our lives better. I will now turn the floor over to Aluki for her comments. Or to you.
Kuyanami Eva, and I will be introducing the other co-chair of the LCAC, which is Aluki Kutchuk, my boss. And Ms. Aluki Kutchuk was sworn in as the 8th president of Nunavut Tungavik in December 2016. Her campaign focused on empowerment, Inuit language, culture, collective healing, and Inuit identity. She is originally from Igloolik, and she now lives in Iqaluit with her family. Aluki grew up in a bicultural home as the oldest of 7 children, and she holds several degrees from the Trent University, and namely a master's degree as well. Aluki works and has worked for various Inuit organizations, including Pauktutit, which is the National Inuit Women of Canada, the Inuit Tapiriset of Canada, which is now Inuit Tapirit of Kanatami, and then NS. Aluki returned to Nunavut, where she has held several senior management positions, including a deputy minister role within the government of Nunavut, and as well as a role at the Office of the Languages Commissioner. Aluki was most recently the Director of Inuit Employment in NTI. Aluki has a passion to empowering and improving Inuit lives, and has expressed keen interest in how Inuit culture and language could be better incorporated into the way programs and services are delivered. So let's please welcome Aluki Kutchup for her opening remarks as co-chair.
Ulakon, Koyan Nami James, Tunga Siktikaving Tunga Say Kataunak Tunga Eva Clayton, Koyan Nami River Tunga Say Sarmingman. Amaru Claudette Koyan Nami Tiapara Tuxernico Matui Sarmago, Tana Katamanartavun. Ilisar Narasi Ariane, Ilisar Naktunetakuldan Ariana Katangman. As co-chair of the Land Claims Agreement Coalition, I'd like to also offer my welcome to everyone who's here with Eva Clayton. I am pleased that you're all here, and there are so many of you. There are Inuit, members of First Nations, Métis, elders, public servants, students, academics, lots of familiar faces, and I'm sure soon to be familiar faces. Welcome. It is really good to have so many people interested in our modern treaties, to understand them, to discuss them, and to work with us to ensure that they are fully implemented. Over the next couple of days, it will become apparent to each of you that each of us have personal stories about modern treaties that we've experienced. On April 30th, 1990, I had just turned 15 when there was a lot of commotion in my home community of Igloolik. We all gathered at Atagutaluk School Gymnasium to witness the agreement in principle signed by the then Dayan Minister Tom Siddon and the Tungavik Federation of Nunavut President Paul Kwasa. This was going to result in the creation of Nunavut. The excitement and hopefulness was palpable. This was going to be good for Inuit. Inuit would have a government that would not only represent them, but would deliver programs and services in a way that understood Inuit ways of being, and would provide programs and services in a language that Inuit understand, in Inuktitut. As Inuit, we were able to be a part in the construction of our place in Canada to ensure that there was a fairer, more equitable basis of our relationship. We knew we could change the lives that we were living in. One of the underlying things that you'll hear about modern treaties is the hopefulness and optimism that people feel when these agreements are signed. This was certainly the case in Nunavut. These agreements are intended to provide a basis for a working relationship. They provide a firm foundation to do things differently. Once an agreement is signed, the real work has to begin, though. And we need to do our job to bring life to these agreements, to ensure that they are fully implemented. One of the other common threads that you will hear when you think and talk about modern treaties is the disappointment and frustration in regards to the full implementation of our agreements. Canada is now celebrating 150 years of Confederation. Indigenous people have been around much longer, since the beginning. The theme of this conference is a new relationship 150 years later. We already have a basis for our relationship with the Crown. I want to acknowledge and appreciate that the current federal government is reaching out to us. The Prime Minister has met with us in various forms and venues, and he has said some very important things. In particular, he has said that our modern treaties must be read in spirit and intent and not be interpreted purely in terms of legal obligations. This is a good thing. You'll recall the hope that I talked about. As you know, governments come and go, but modern treaties are recognized as in our Constitution. They are a foundation for us. We all know that the machinery of government means that it takes a long time for direction to change. It is important that the Prime Minister's recognition result in real change in how things are done. The political will must translate into a bureaucratic will. It must be informed and become government practice. As we move forward towards strengthening our relationship with the Crown, over the next couple of days, I urge you to, as you go to your sessions, to reflect on your role, your space. How are you going to make a difference to ensure that we get to a point where we fully implement our modern treaties? We want our hopes realized. Indigenous youth, Inuit youth, expect no less from us. Poyanaming.